Epididymis, competency number AN-46.2. Epididymis is a comma-shaped structure which is located on the superior and the posterolateral surface of the testis. Now this is completely coiled, and it is composed of highly coiled tubules. The parts of the epididymis is divided into three parts from top to the bottom. The epididymis head, we have the epididymis body and the epididymis tail. The head of the epididymis is connected to the upper part of the testis through the efferent ductules. The epididymis body and the tail, they're composed of single highly coiled tubules of epididymis. The epididymis tail then further continues as ductus deferens. Concising the points for parts of epididymis, the epididymis from above downward is divided into three parts: head, body and the tail. The head is connected to the upper part of the testis by efferent ductules, which consists of highly coiled efferent ductules. The body and the tail, they are made up of single highly coiled duct of epididymis, which emerges from the tail as vas deferens. Now going to the functions of epididymis. The storage and maturation of the spermatozoa that we've already been studying since the lower class, that they help in storage and maturation of the spermatozoa, absorption of the fluid. The third point, addition of the substances to the seminal fluid to nourish the maturing spermatozoa. Development of testis and epididymis. The testis develops on the posterior wall of the abdominal cavity. This is the abdominal cavity, and it develops on the posterior wall of the abdominal cavity from the mesodermal genital ridge. So we see this is the genital ridge over here, which will form the testis. This genital ridge, which lies on the medial side of the developing mesonephris at the level of T10 segment. All the components of the testis develop from the genital ridge, like seminiferous tubule, retetestis, tunica albuginea, and the Sertoli cells. So all these structures, Sertoli cells. So all of these structures of testis develop from genital ridge except for primordial germ cell. Primordial germ cell do not develop from the genital ridge. They develop from the wall of the yolk sac and migrate secondarily into this genital ridge. Most of the mesonephris ductule, they undergo atrophy, but about 10 to 15 tubules, so you see these are the mesonephric ductules over here. So all of these, majority of these, they undergo atrophy, but about 10 to 15 ductules persist and they form the efferent ductule. So you can see here, they form the efferent ductule here, the efferent ductule of the testis. Now as I already told that this efferent ductule is a structure where the head of the epididymis is connected to the upper pole of the with the help of efferent ductules. The mesonephric duct, then this is the mesonephric duct. This mesonephric duct will form this mesonephric tubules. So these will form the epididymis. Then these duct continue further, forms the ductus deferens, so the vas deferens, then seminal vesicle, and later ejaculatory duct. Now further concising the points for development of the testis and epididymis. The testis develops in the abdominal cavity on the posterior wall from the genital ridge on the medial side of the developing mesonephris at the level of the T10 segment. All the components of the testis, like tunica albuginea, fibrous septa, seminiferous tubule, straight tubules, retetestis, Sertoli cells, all of these structures, they develop from genital ridge except this primordial germ cell. This primordial germ cell, basically the spermatogonia, develops from the wall of the yolk sac and migrates secondarily into the genital ridge. Most of the mesonephris tubules or the mesonephric tubules, they undergo atrophy, but about 10 to 15 tubules persist and they form the efferent ductules of the testis. The mesonephric ducts form the duct of the epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicle, and the ejaculatory duct. Embryological remnants in relation to testis and epididymis. So, we have superior aberrant ductules, inferior aberrant ductules, appendix of testis, appendix of epididymis, and perididymis. So, these are the embryological remnants that we are going to study in relation to testis and epididymis. Talking about superior aberrant ductules, so these are 2 to 3 in number and they are attached to the upper end of the testis and they represent the remnants of the upper mesonephric tubules. So we have the mesonephric tubules over here and they represent the upper mesonephric tubules as their remnant. Coming to inferior aberrant ductules, so these are around 1 to 2 in number and they are attached to the tail of the epididymis. They represent or they are the remnants of the intermediate mesonephric tubules. Then coming to appendix of testis, it's an oval body structure which is attached to the upper pole of the testis. About appendix of epididymis, which we also call it as hydratid of Morgagni, this is a rounded body which is attached to the head of the epididymis. This represents the remnant of cranial end of the mesonephric duct or the Wolffian duct. So this mesonephric duct here, we have the mesonephric tubules, then this tubule further continues as a duct and this duct now later forms the tail of epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicles and ejaculatory duct. Now we have perididymis or the organ of Gerals. So they are around 3 to 4 in number, 3 to 4 free tubules which are situated in the spermatic cord and above the head of the epididymis. They represent the caudal end of the mesonephric tubules. Concising the points for embryological remnants in relation to testis and epididymis. They are as follows. Appendix of testis, the first one. Now it is an oval body which is attached to the upper part of the testis or the upper pole of the testis. Next is appendix of the epididymis. It's a small rounded body attached to the head of the epididymis and it is a remnant of cranial end of the mesonephris or the mesonephric duct. Next is perididymis or the organ of Gerals. It consists of 3 to 4 free tubules which are found in the spermatic cord just above the head of the epididymis and they are the remnants of the caudal mesonephric tubules. These appendix of epididymis, they are the remnant of cranial end of the mesonephris duct or the mesonephric duct. Then the next one, superior aberrant ductule. They are 2 to 3 in number, 2 or 3 in number and are attached to the upper end of the testis just above the efferent ductule of the testis and they are the remnants of the upper mesonephric tubule. This is upper mesonephris tubule. Now the next one, inferior aberrant ductule. The last one, they are about 1 or 2 in number and are attached to the tail of the epididymis and they are the remnants of the intermediate mesonephric tubules. The first one, appendix of the testis, is attached to the upper pole of the testis. Next one, appendix of the epididymis. It represents the remnant of the cranial end of the mesonephris duct. The perididymis represents the caudal end of the mesonephric tubule. The superior aberrant represents the upper mesonephric tubule and the inferior represents the intermediate mesonephris tubule. Descent of the testis. The testis develops in the extra-abdominal cavity. The only reason is that in the abdomen there's high temperature and that high temperature is not suitable for the spermatogenesis to happen. That's the only reason they migrate out of the abdominal cavity into the scrotum. So this is the base of the scrotum. Now in the picture we can see this is the peritoneum, this is the testis, this mesonephris duct, gubernaculum testis and the base of the scrotum. So in the intrauterine life, the developing testis, this developing testis lies posterior to the peritoneum but medial to the mesonephris duct. So we can see that this is lying medial to the mesonephros duct but posterior to the peritoneum at the level of L2 to L3 vertebra. Now in the later stage we see the peritoneum folds. So we say it as peritoneal fold, or then later it is named as processus vaginalis. This processus vaginalis extends in front of this testis and extends downwards, reaches the scrotum, the base of the scrotum. So just after this peritoneal fold or the processus vaginalis develops, there's a cord-like fibromuscular band which we call it as gubernaculum testis that develops, and it connects the lower pole of the testis and the mesonephros duct, which goes and gets attached to the base of the scrotum. Coming to the later stage, we see, that is in the stage D, we see the remains of the processus vaginalis. The peritoneal fold later forms the tunica vaginalis. Now here in this picture we can see the gubernaculum testis here. Now this testis has completely now come down, which was, here we saw it was above, here also. Now this is what we're studying in descent of testis. It has completely descent down with the presence of the gubernaculum testis. We see then ductus deferens. This ductus deferens is a continuation of the mesonephros duct. So as we already discussed that mesonephros duct forms the duct of epididymis, vas deferens, and seminal vesicle and ejaculatory duct. Concising the point for the descent of the testis are here. So now in the last we have factors responsible for descent of the testis. The first factor responsible is differential growth of the body wall, second increased intra-abdominal pressure and temperature, third hormones, fourth contraction of the gubernaculum, fifth calcitonin related gene related peptide which is CGRP, a neurotransmitter and secreted by genitofemoral nerve. Thank you so much for watching the video, and for all your patience, stay tuned with us. We'll be coming up with more videos, and till then, stay safe, work smart, make it happen. Thank you.